What's up, everybody? Good morning, and thanks for joining my channel today, whether you're practicing in the morning, afternoon, evening, or at night. Today's Hatha yoga flow is a beginner's style flow focused on acceptance and compassion. So when you're ready, we will meet in the center of the mat in child's pose. See you there. So we'll drop in traditional child's pose, but again, it's your practice. So if extended child's pose is calling to you, then go ahead and settle into it. Just right away starting to notice the connection to the mat, to the earth, and to your breath. So today's flow will be about acceptance, talking about not only self-acceptance, but acceptance of others. We're going to recognize, observe, and practice non-attachment to our emotions and to our flaws today, or our perceived flaws. So if nothing else, make today's practice a lesson in radical self-love. Start to settle into that mindset as you check in with the physical body, the intellectual body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body. Whatever those things mean to you today. You can settle into stillness or rock the forehead gently left to right. Checking in, beginning to listen to the body and quiet the mind. Connect more deeply with the breath. Stay present in the body. Recognize and meet the body and mind where they are today. We're going to honor our individual journeys. Practice compassion for yourself and your community. Take a few more quiet moments just to turn inward, just to settle in here. And slowly bat the eyes open if they're closed. Come back to your body. Use the hands on the mat just to push you back up to a seated position. And we'll come forward into Cobra at your own pace. If you need a mantra for today's practice, it might be something like, I release judgment and embrace compassion. Take some nice deep breaths in Cobra. We're not too worried about what the poses look like today, but more about how they feel, how you feel. When you're ready, we'll curl the toes under and move into the first downward dog of the day. Rotating your hands slightly outward, about shoulder width or wider apart. Bringing the heels toward the mat, but it's okay if they don't touch. Focus mostly on that flat back. And then maybe just alternate bending through the knees, pressing through the soles of the feet and all 10 toes. Just kind of waking up the legs, the feet, noticing what you feel. Take your time here. Move without judgment, without attachment. As you pedal through the feet, let's take one step at a time toward the top of the mat. We're going to walk up into a standing forward fold. We're going to come into this pose a few times today. So root down through the heels, feet about shoulder width apart when you get there. Relax through the shoulders, the upper back. Let the hands release toward the mat. Relax through the head and neck. Take some nice deep breaths all the way down the back, all the way into the heels. On your next inhale, root down through the heels. Drag your fingertips along the front edge of the body. Slowly moving all the way up to standing. Bringing palms together overhead. And then dropping them down to in front of the heart. Roll the shoulders back, open up through the chest, tuck the chin, take a deep breath. On your exhale, release the palms back down to the mat, coming back into that forward fold. This time on your inhale, we'll lift up halfway, coming to a flat back position. You can bring your fingertips and palms to the front of the shins or the thighs, or even stretch them out behind you, whatever feels right. Take your time getting there, moving at your own pace. Take a deep breath, and on your next exhale, let's release the hands to the mat. And this time we're going to release the hands to the mat. We're going to press into the fingertips, send that left foot back. Dropping that left knee to the mat, uncurling the toes. We're going to come into a low lunge. So from here, you can hinge at the hips, coming to an upright position in the torso when you're ready. Maybe sinking down a little deeper into that lunge. Just noticing what you feel, bringing your awareness there, making it your own. And then maybe bringing the palms together up and overhead, and then using that right hand to grab the left wrist. We'll pull that left wrist, left arm up toward the ceiling, and then over to the right side of the mat, giving you a little side body stretch there. Just checking in, noticing what you feel. Couple deep breaths. Breathe all the way down into that left hip. Trust in your process. Stay present in your breath. And when you're ready, cycle the hands back down to frame that right foot. We're going to extend through that right knee, coming into half splits. Sending the right toes up toward the ceiling, and you may need to walk your left knee back if you land kind of weird when you extend through that right knee. So adjust if you need to. Take your time here, notice what you feel, check in with the spine. Stay connected to the breath. Bring your awareness to what you're feeling. Observe without judgment, without attachment. When you're ready, we'll roll back through onto the sole of the right foot. You can frame that right foot with your hands. Curl the left toes under to lift that back knee. And then we're just going to come back into a downward dog. So you can go into a plank first by sending that right foot back, or you can just move into downward dog however you will. And let's once again just pedal through the feet or find stillness, whatever feels right. Checking in with the hamstrings, finding that nice flat back position. Just exploring. When you're ready, we'll walk our feet back up to that standing forward fold at the top of the mat. Moving at your own pace with radical self-love and acceptance. Take a couple deep breaths in that forward fold. Notice what you feel. Checking in with your body, where you are in your practice, in your journey. On your next inhale, you can slowly drag the fingertips up along the front edge of the body, coming all the way up to standing. And then slowly extending the arms overhead, bringing palms together, really reaching. Inhale deep, and exhale, lower the palms to the heart space. Roll the shoulders back, open up the chest. Take another nice, rich inhale. And exhale, release the hands all the way down to the mat. Inhale, lift halfway, find that flat back position, palms on the shins or on the thighs, or maybe extended behind you, whatever feels right. Release the hands when you're ready. We'll come into a low lunge on the second side. Can't remember which foot I started with. All right, I think we send the right foot back. Lower that right knee to the mat. Uncurl the right toes. Hinge at the hips. Come to that upright position. Sink down into that low lunge. Maybe bring your palms to the top of the left knee. Just checking in. Feel free to walk that right knee back a bit if you need to. And then maybe release the hands to your sides and then bring them up and overhead. Use that left hand to grab that right wrist, pull it a little higher toward the ceiling or the sky, and then bend toward the left side of the mat. Breathing deep, noticing what you feel. Be present with the breath. Try to find peace in this moment. And when you're ready, release the hands back down to the mat. You can frame that left foot. Feel free to walk that right knee back a little further if you need to. And then we're going to extend through that left knee, sending left toes toward the ceiling, rolling up onto that left heel for half splits on the second side. Try to stay long through the spine here. You can make it as passive or as active as you want to. You might just relax through the head and neck, or maybe you are engaging that left leg, pulling it in toward the left hip for a deeper stretch. Listen to your body. When you're ready, bend into that left knee, coming back onto the sole of the left foot. And from here, we're just going to move into tabletop, so do so organically. Move how you want to, how your body wants to. Coming onto all fours, we'll plant the palms under the shoulders, knees under the hips, nice neutral spine. And we'll just go through a little quick cat-cow. So feel free to connect with the breath and move traditionally, or move in any way that your spine is asking you to. You can inhale, drop the belly, lift the gaze, point the tail toward the ceiling. Exhale, press into the palms, arch through the upper back, curl the low ribs inward. Or maybe you're just drawing circles with the low ribs. Just checking in with the spine here. Remember, we're practicing radical self-love and acceptance. So listen to what your body needs. Honor where you are in your journey. And when you feel good about it, we'll come into extended child's pose, just bringing the big toes in to touch. Extending the knees as wide as is comfortable, maybe as wide as the yoga mat. And sending the hips back toward the heels. You can walk your hands forward, bring your forehead to the mat whenever you're ready. Breathe deep. Inhaling acceptance. Exhaling judgment. Stay connected to the breath and bring your awareness to the fingertips. Let's press in gently here just to lift the forehead when you're ready. We'll walk the hands over to the left. Nice and slowly, like you're moving through water, just exploring your range, melting down the head and heart on that side. Wherever you land, you land. Again, feel free to be curious here in your body. You can be nice and passive, or maybe walk the fingertips a little bit further away. Notice what you feel. Just observing without judgment or without self-limiting beliefs. When you're ready, move mindfully. We'll do the same thing on the second side. So you might start by pressing into the fingertips, opening the eyes if they're closed, lifting the forehead. And we'll walk slowly and gently over to the other side. Checking in with your range there, melting down the head and heart. Maybe walking the fingertips a little bit further, staying nice and anchored through the hips. Breathing in acceptance and compassion. Letting something go on your exhale. Stay here as long as you'd like. When you're ready, once again, bring the awareness back to the fingertips, lifting the forehead, to gently walk the hands back through center. When you get there, we'll come forward onto all fours. Then we're going to come onto the belly, resting with the palms under the shoulders. Take a second here. When you're ready, we're going to press into the palms, press into the fingertips, curl the toes under, get really strong. We're going to press up for plank. You can do it. Remind yourself, let go of self-limiting beliefs. We'll hold in plank for just a minute. And then we're going to move into a side plank from this position. So this will require some balance. If you don't, plank is not part of your practice regularly, take your time. I'm going to give you a little shortcut when we get there. So to move into that side plank, let's start by sinking the weight into the right palm and aligning it under the right shoulder, using the left fingertips to guide you onto stacked hips, knees, and ankles. Take your time. Extend through that left arm when you're ready. And when you get here, if holding is too much, we'll take that left foot off the stack and just put it on the ground in front of you like a little kickstand. Take your time getting there, whatever variation you're in. Once you're there, extend that left hand really long overhead toward the top edge of your mat. And we're going to dip down for a couple little strength building hip dips. So you're going to lower your hip down to the mat, circle that left hand all the way up and over toward the back edge of the mat, and set your hip down on the mat as you move. That was a horrible explanation, so I'll start again. From that side plank or supported side plank, lower the hip down, circle the left hand all the way up and over toward the back edge of the mat, and gently set that right hip down on the mat. Take your time, explore, practicing radical self-love and acceptance for wherever you are. When you're ready, we'll come back into a traditional plank. Slowly lower to the belly. Take your time. Extend through the toes. Press up for cobra. We'll melt it back down. Curl the toes under. Press up to plank. And hips up high for downward dog. So we're going to rest in downward dog and then try the same thing on the second side. So take your time here. Feel free to drop your knees to the mat and roll through the wrists if you need to, or rest in any other pose that feels comfortable for you. When you're ready, feel free to start exploring on the second side. First, just by walking the hands out to plank, holding for a second, practicing self-acceptance. Then we'll gently come into that side plank on the second side by sinking the weight into the left hand, aligning it under the left shoulder, and using the right fingertips to guide you onto stacked hips, knees, and ankles. And then maybe extending that right arm toward the ceiling or all the way up and overhead on the top edge of your mat. If you need a support, let's lift that right foot. Bring the sole of the right foot to the mat for a little kickstand. And then we'll slowly drop the left hip down toward the mat as we cycle the right hand all the way up and over toward the back edge of the mat. So move through that motion a couple of times. Same thing like the first side. Feel free to explore. Challenge your body. Challenge your mind. And most importantly, practice self-acceptance. When you feel good about it, come back into that side plank to come into your traditional plank. Take your time getting there. And we'll slowly lower to the belly. Extend through the toes, palms under the shoulders. We'll press up for cobra. Melt it back down. Curl the toes under. Press up for plank or downward dog. Feel free to take a second here if it feels good. Otherwise, we'll pedal through the feet and walk back up to the top of the mat for your standing forward fold. Take your time getting there, planting the feet just under the hips, extending through the knees, relaxing through the head and neck, relaxing through the wrists, And the hands, feel free to roll through them or massage through them if it feels good. Otherwise, just taking a couple deep breaths here. Digesting what you just observed in your own body and mind. Practicing radical self-acceptance. Practicing compassion toward yourself. You can find stillness here or rock gently side to side, clasping opposite elbows with opposite hands. When you're ready, we're going to heel toe the feet to about as wide as the yoga mat, letting the toes spill off to the left and to the right. Once you're there, we'll bend into the knees to drop the hips down toward the mat, bringing the elbows to the insides of the knees, palms together at the heart. Checking in with the breath, and then checking in with the spine. Getting nice and long from the tip of your tail to the crown of your head. Nice and open through the chest. Maybe close your eyes if it feels good. Connect with the breath. Might consider your mantra. Quiet the mind. And in practicing radical self-acceptance, one thing that we sometimes need to accept is that you can come into meditation without having a perfectly quiet mind. So accept that you won't be able to completely quiet the mind every time you're in a meditative state, and that's okay. Continue working at it. That's why it's a practice. Stay in this squat as long as it feels good. We're going to transition into boat pose from here. Any variation that's in your practice. So when you're ready to do that, we're going to try to keep our hands off the mat and practice radical self-acceptance no matter what happens. We're going to challenge the balance just by dropping the hips to the mat, keeping the hands raised and lifting the feet, bringing the feet together, maybe bending at the knees. Feel free to bring your hands to the backs of the thighs to support. Or maybe just opening up the palms toward the ceiling, to the left and to the right of your shins. Maybe extending through the legs and extending through the arms. Just practicing, challenging your balance, meeting yourself where you are in your journey, and trying to find peace while doing it. When you're ready, we're going to roll onto the back. Take your time getting there. And once you're there, we'll just bend into the knees, bring the knees in toward the chest. Wrap your arms around your knees. Maybe rock gently side to side. Think about your mantra or the theme of today's practice. Be present with the breath. Embrace where you are. And when you're ready, we can move into happy baby. Just bringing the hands to the outsides of the feet or to behind the knees, or maybe just hooking your index and middle finger around the big toe. Opening up the heels and the backs of the knees toward the ceiling. Just gently Pushing your knees down toward the floor. Not forcing any shape, just listening to and communicating with the body. Again, take your time in any of these poses. Listen to what your body needs. Stay here as long as you'd like. When you're ready, you can bring the soles of the feet to the mat. We'll send the arms out left to right like a T shape. And we'll start by crossing the right leg completely over the left. We'll shift the hips a little bit to the right and then let the knees fall toward the left, keeping that right shoulder pinned toward the mat. From here, keep the back of your right hand on the floor and just slide that right hand up along the carpet or the mat or the floor overhead like you're raising your hand in class. Breathe deep. Continue connecting with the breath. When you feel good about it, you can slide that right hand back down to the T shape. We'll roll through the heels, coming back up to the back. Unravel the legs. And do the same thing on the second side at your own pace. Start by crossing that left leg completely over the right. Pressing into that right heel, shifting the hips to the left a bit. And then just letting the knees fall toward the floor on the right side. Keep that left shoulder pressing down toward the mat. And keeping the back of the left hand on the floor, just slide it up overhead like you're raising your hand. Enjoy some deep inhales all the way down the left side body, into that left hip, left glute. Slide the left hand back down to the T shape when you're ready to come out. Take your time moving, move mindfully, observe, coming back onto the back, unraveling the legs. We'll extend the legs out long. Bring that left heel toward the nearest corner of the mat. Then we're going to just cross the left heel toward the top left corner of the mat, or bottom left, depending on your perspective. And we're going to cross that right ankle over the left. Okay, so now you're going to extend through that left hand toward the other nearest corner. So in my case, the bottom right corner of the mat. We're going to make a crescent shape with our bodies. So bring your right hand up and over also to that corner. Kind of press your hip over to the right. And your stacked wrists and ankles should be toward the left. Connect with the breath. Feel free to make it as passive or as active as you want. Pulling through that right wrist, pressing that right shoulder down, pressing that right hip down. Or just relaxing, connecting with the breath. When you're ready, we'll do the same thing on the second side. Maybe starting by bringing the wrists and ankles to the four corners of the mat. And then stacking that left ankle over the right. And then bringing that left wrist into the right hand. Pulling up and over, pressing the left hip toward the left. So again, making that crescent shape with the body. Breathing deep through the side body. Spend as much time here as you'd like. Listen to your body. When you're finished here, when you feel fulfilled, we'll meet in Shavasana, or corpse pose. Coming into our final resting pose of the practice. Let the feet fall apart, let the palms open up. Close your eyes if it feels good. Grab your pillow if you want to. Try to find stillness here. Reconnect with and feel supported by the earth, by your mat. Reconnect with the breath if you've lost that connection. Quiet the mind by observing what pops up and just letting it go without attachment. Enjoy these last few quiet moments in this space that you've created for yourself. And in this community that we've created for each other. Let that idea of radical self-love, radical self-acceptance wash over you. Think about how you can extend those ideas through your day, through your week, to your community, through your work. Before we close this practice, I want to do a quick land acknowledgement. I just want to recognize that I am leading this class from former Monongahela, Osage, and Erie lands. We recognize and honor the indigenous people that inhabited these lands before us. I encourage you all to find out whose lands you are practicing from, and find ways to support the ongoing indigenous struggle for liberation in the United States and abroad. If it feels right to do so, feel free to bring your palms together to rest gently on the forehead or the third eye or the space between the eyebrows. Or rest your hands gently on the body in closing this practice. We also want to recognize that yoga is an ancient spiritual practice stemming from Indian culture and the subcontinent of India. So we recognize and honor that cultural heritage. We recognize and honor that yoga brings us together as a community. I thank you so much for being part of my community today. I hope you got something you needed here today, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.